Aptly titled Personal Jesus, tonight's episode opens with April in the shower, telling us via voiceover the story of Job, the biblical figure who, in the course of 4 messages, was tested by God by having everything taken away from him in a single day. Still, Job continued to be a faithful servant and persevered, and for his faith God rewarded him with twice what he had before. The first message for April comes in the form of Yosh's abusive estranged husband, Paul, whom she is tending to in the year after his hit and run. After being nudged by Meredith to not lose him, April sends the bad doctor off for a head CT, confident that he'll be okay. Meredith is worried that despite their protests, Karev and Joe were indeed somehow involved with Paul's accident, and she half-jokingly tells them they can reach Canada by lunch. She also tells them to go see a lawyer. Bonnie and Clyde, Joe and Karev see Jenny, Paul's fiancée, talking to the police. Joe wants to talk to her, but Meredith tells her not to because she says that if it was Jenny who hit him, then Joe and Karev could possibly be accessories to attempted murder. Paging Annalise Keating. The second message for April comes via a literal delivery. Karen, a 37 weeks pregnant woman, is rushed in because her physician, none other than the amazing Dr. Arizona Robbins herself, told her to meet her there. Karen is very upset because she wants to wait to deliver until her husband arrives, but unfortunately, as all new parents eventually learn, children don't really know how to wait. Helm, the blonde intern, is comically assisting April, who is trying to prevent Karen's perineum from tearing. "I can never get over how it stretches like that, it's almost inhuman," Helm says, stunned. "Miraculous," April assures Karen. She means miraculous. As April is elbow deep inside Karen, trying to deliver the miracle, Karen's husband finally arrives and turns out to be Matthew, the jilted fiancé April left at the altar as she literally ran away, in slow motion, no less, with Jackson. As April's faith is set up to be tested, Bailey's marriage is being tested because Ben didn't sign 13-year-old Tuck up for science camp in time, and now Tuck and his friend must spend the day at Gray Sloan Memorial because Ben has to get back to ambulance duty. Ever the adorable nerd, Maggie overhears Bailey's predicament and offers to teach Tuck and his friend some cool science stuff, which she more than delivers on in the form of a cool experiment that involves pouring in a catalyst and making things go blammo. After April tells Owen that she's excited because Weber asked her to judge the Bailey Innovation Contest, he bursts her bubble by making her realize that that was a cop-out on his part because everyone would much rather compete than judge. Realizing he's right, she unwittingly tries to pawn the judging duties onto Jackson, who's anonymously funding the contest, but he manages to elude her. The third message for April comes via Ben, who is coming back to Gray Sloan Memorial on ambulance duty. The patient he's bringing in is a 12-year-old who was shot by police. The cops assumed because of the color of the boy's skin that he was breaking into a house. Turns out, though, that it was his house and he had just forgotten his keys. The 2 officers accompanying him try to cuff him to the bed, but Jackson argues that he's not armed and he's a child. They refer to him as a perp but are swiftly corrected by Ben, who tells them his name is Eric. Jenny finds Joe to tell her that she didn't tell police it was Joe and Karev who hit Paul, but Joe assures her that it wasn't them. Turns out it was a drunk driver, but before that's discovered, Jenny spirals into an understandable monologue of self-doubt, wondering how she, a scientist and a feminist, got stuck in an abusive relationship. Joe tells her something that perhaps too many domestic abuse survivors need to hear: it's not their fault. The good outweighed the bad until it didn't. The fourth and final message comes in the form of a 20-year-old named David who tried cutting off his hand because the Bible tells you that if your right hand causes you to sin then you should cut it off. April shares this case with Weber and smarmy Dr. Roy, a surgical intern who seems to have a knack for saying the wrong thing at exactly the wrong time, and it's a good thing she has help because while they're doing the heavy lifting, she's debating scripture with young David. For a while it seems like everything is going okay. Karen's baby is whisked off to an ICU to be monitored, and she and April are able to address the now massively awkward elephant in the room, and I don't just mean the vulva blood clot that Karen's developed after the birth and April has to drain. They talk about God not giving them more than they can handle. Eric also seems to have been spared as the bullet is just sitting next to his carotid artery. Jackson, Bailey, and April are doing a CT when April says she can understand how this happened because she's seen SOLRs get so wound up with stress that they just shoot without thinking. Jackson counters with his own war story, though only his involves his own childhood and growing up shades darker in an affluent neighborhood. He was walking home with speakers when police jumped him with guns drawn and slammed him into a car. He was only 1 block away from his house. Even though the CT scan shows that it seems that Eric's figuratively dodged a bullet for the time being, Bailey orders him to stay for antibiotics and observation before Jackson summarizes the fact that while his life may have been saved, the police took his childhood today. He will never again be the same. April goes to check on Karen, who still hasn't been brought to a room. As Karen is sleeping, April has time to catch up with Matthew, who thanks her because Karen is the best thing that's ever happened to him. He tells her it took a long time to get over her, but that he then realized Karen was the love of his life. He assumes that April and Jackson are still happy and together, and she doesn't correct him. Recap continues on page 2.